I'm Marty Lafferty, and our next guest is Stefan Bewley. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you very much.
So, consumers already watch countless TV programs, movies, videos on their tablets, smartphones, smartwatches, other devices. So, what is left to connect entertainment to us at this point?
Well, there's always going to be new devices left to connect. You have the back seat of cars, you have wearables, whatever new wearable comes out. So I think there will be some, but I think you're right. The level of connectivity amongst devices is growing and possibly saturating at some point. I think, though, there's quite a bit of innovation left on the other side. So how are we going to consume this, in what manner, and in what kind of business model makes sense? I think that's really where some innovation is going to be happening.
You talked about a couple of them. Wearables haven't exactly been flying off the shelves, and Google Glass has not been a huge hit. So what's it going to take to get those to take off?
Yeah, well, I think this is a little redundant, but I think wearables have to be wearable. So I think that means that they have to have not only some type of functional utility, but some type of design and comfort. And I think, there's a possibility with Apple Watch that could take off. They're certainly known for their design. But I think fundamentally what you're going to be seeing is you're going to start to see wearables eventually get produced by companies that are used to producing things that we wear. And whether that's Nike with sports equipment or other things like that, I don't see us necessarily having wearables be the domain of technology companies.
It makes sense. So what about going back to our discussion point for this section? The media entertainment companies, what type of business models? Is it the same business models? Is it different ones for this space? Do subscription services still make sense, or what do you think about that?
Well, when we think about content, let's just take video as an example. I think that historically we've had this bulk package that we buy, and we pay anywhere around $100 or more for that package, and we buy hundreds of channels. And I think what we're seeing is we're starting to see some fragmentation around that, because what we're seeing is a shift from a TV-centric model to an OTT/mobile-centric model, and people don't necessarily need to have the same level of content available to them. They want to watch what they want to watch, not necessarily everything under the sun. And so to answer your specific question, I do think that subscription services will continue, but I don't know that it's necessarily an $80, $100, $150 package. I think what you're seeing with HBO, Dish, CBS, others, is some level of fragmentation of those packages. And that's really interesting, because if you believe that there's a market out there for those fragmented packages, and you believe that there's still some value in bundling, because I don't want to have to search for each individual channel, then the question is, what do you bundle, how big is it, and what matters? And maybe I want to watch ESPN and HBO, and you want to watch AMC and HBO and TNT. And so that is going to really require some thought around segmentation, pricing, go-to-market, really, that the industry hasn't seen yet. And fundamentally, the industry has been built on a portfolio approach. So ESPN funds ESPN Classic, et cetera. And I think that might still be the case, but at a much smaller scale. And so some content's going to cost a lot more. People are going to be willing to pay for that, and some content will cost a lot less because they're not willing to pay for it and might be financially challenged.
Does IoT do anything to change the media entertainment experience, or is it just another platform, basically the same?
Well, I think IoT definitely changes it. I mean, fundamentally what IoT is it's a non-human interaction that's enhancing a human experience. And so what we're talking about in the context of, say, video here is we're talking about the ability to maybe sense who you are or what is around you and be able to make that a more personal experience. So there's really two interesting examples that I like to focus on. One is you're watching a TV, and because of content recognition, automatic content recognition, they are able to sync the content that you're seeing on your tablet with what you're seeing on your TV. So that's kind of the tablet maybe being able to sense what the TV is seeing, or the TV sensing the tablet. And then there's the idea of being able to sense that it's Stefan in front of the TV instead of Stefan's son or Stefan's relatives, and therefore personalizing some of the content that's actually on the TV. So I think really IoT is around personalization.
And are there different companies that could exploit this? I mean, the added personalization from our traditional media companies, different?
Yeah, well, I think definitely that's the case. I mean, I think that you see technology companies getting into this. So there are certainly, you know, the Googles of the world, and also hardware companies, Sony, Samsung, and others. I think really there's a lot of opportunity. The challenge is balancing that with some privacy concerns. So there's been a lot of talk about, well, is my TV going to get hacked? And
Yeah.
you know, if I'm able to have this personalization, that means, again, they know it's me or it's my son or somebody else, and therefore, does somebody else know
Yeah.
that it's me there? And I think really that's fundamentally what's the key consideration here, because when we're talking about the video experience, at least primarily it's in the home, even if it's not on the TV. And so it's a very personal space. And having the safeguards and security around that, I think, are really the challenges. So I think, you know, in addition to everything else that comes to mind, security companies are really have an opportunity and a challenge here.
Does the cloud play a role in this, and is that going to help with that in terms of this overall evolution of the media entertainment experience?
I think so. I mean, I think the type of sensing that I was talking about earlier, whether it's sensing, say, that a tablet's in the room and syncing with that, or that you know, a person's in the room, that all requires a fair amount of processing, and it also requires multi-platform coordination. So for me to be able to have something on my tablet be synced with something on the TV is a cross-platform coordination, and generally speaking, the cloud's a great way to enable that because of the fact that you're getting much faster processing, much more affordable processing, and platform agnostic processing.
And the last question, you mentioned the privacy concerns. How do you balance what some people already find is too intrusive an experience with a smart TV? How do you balance that with the added benefits we can get from that?
Well, I think that's a real challenge. I think, you know, there's no right answer here. I personally think that at some level it's going to have to be an opt-in opportunity, and then people can make their own personal decisions. The challenge with that, of course, is that adoption will be slower and maybe not as prolific, but that might be a more sustainable model.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.